Good afternoon, traders and investors. Josh Walter here, taking place of Joel for the closing print. We want to make sure that you guys get some time. You guys keep requesting the closing print. So here we are. We're making it happen. We're going to have on Christian Fromhertz today. I'm also coming from a remote office, so apologies for any audio differences that you may hear. But let's get into the futures. Currently, S&P 500 up about 0.3%, coming off the highs. We'll see if we can rally into the close, or maybe we'll sell off into the close. We'll see in the next half hour. Yes, up 0.3% at 52.29 in the E-mini futures there. Dollar up 0.25% at 103.48. Also off the highs seen earlier today. Bonds doing well, up almost 0.5% at 118.23. Crude up about 0.75% at 82.79. Gold down about 0.2% there at 21.60. Silver down 0.6% at 25.11. And Bitcoin coming back down by about almost 3.5% at 64,700, coming off of the highs. Well, until Christian comes on here, we have lots of earnings to cover, of course. Earnings season just continues as always, and we're kind of into China earnings season, if I may. So there's a couple of Chinese stocks as well as other earnings stocks here. Tencent reported earnings this morning. They had their EPS came within forecasts, but they beat on revenue. So they're currently up almost 7.5% on the day, still near the highs. Actually, that looks like a nice VWAP trade for those of you who follow Kenny, the Warlock, as he likes to be called. It looks like a nice VWAP bounce just after that morning move. So Tencent doing well there. I mean, really, we have to look at the monthlies if we want any levels, and going all the way back to, let's see here, this is August of 2021. Uh, the high there was 1102, so I might have to get a little more nitty-gritty into the daily chart if I was going to find a level, but you're already see if you can hold this 1102 level and see if it continues higher there. Also, another core and main reported earnings this morning. That's CNM, and that's up. They missed on their EPS, but they had a slight beat on revenue. And yeah, they're just flying higher here. I believe that's all-time highs as well. So the sky is at least clear, although it looks like there's a bit of resistance and accumulation that's been happening this afternoon. So that's core and main. Another XPEV reported earnings this morning. They beat on EPS, but they missed on revenue and currently chopping around here. They're up just a little over 1% as of this moment. I mean, you have kind of this set of highs right around 1045. And we saw 1052 today, making that almost a triple top if we count the action just earlier in the week here. So I would look for it to clear that level on the long side. And then above that, you got 1065 high from, let's see, March 12th, as well as back in January, another high right around the 1050 area. So that will be a key level to watch. And then you have a little bit of a gap above $11. So if it really starts to get going, there's some nice clean levels for you. But then on the downside, we have I'll call it a double bottom at least, right at about $9.27, which is also the low of today. And let's see here. Yeah, Bill, probably long, but bought some AMD right around here. I am actually still long NVIDIA and short AMD and playing that pair, and it's been working out fairly nicely. As far as AMD goes, I mean, we're right at the bottom of this little tiny gap that we saw earlier, or at least at the end of February there. But yeah, I mean, you could lean on support probably. I would personally lean on support right around that 173 area where we have a bunch of lows. But I see Christian coming in here. I'm gonna stop the screen share and see how we're doing. Hey, Christian, how are you doing today?
Hey, how's it going, Josh? How are you?
Good. Yeah, it's been a bit. It's been been fun taking the seat for Joel here.
Well, he takes off when it's a choppy market. It's a smart move.
I know.
Well
Yeah.
seasoned move.
Yes,
So
exactly.
so
You
yeah,
noticed.
we've got a lot of chop on our hands, and it could be that we're kind of just kind of in a little bit of a hold period until the Fed meeting. But it also just has seen that since we got the inflation data last week, it has kind of just prompted like a little bit of a pause, in the action. So what's interesting is I think, a lot of people, even like, even myself, of like wondering if we're going to get, a little bit more volatility than this. But for now, it's just kind of a sideways type move where, you can kind of play the edges. That's what seems to be working right now. And we'll see if that changes after tomorrow, or if we're just going to kind of continue. March is a month where, it's not a super month for equities either. So, it could just be a situation that we have that, March is playing out, and we're getting a little bit of pause in trend and some rotations going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely seeing some rotations going on. But yes, you actually just tweeted out this chart here
Yes.
of yeah, of the hourly chart. And yeah, we're just chopping back and forth here. But I was kind of wondering, so you often use the value area here, but
hmm
I was wondering what the bullish weekly 80% rule was. Uh,
Yeah, so great question. The 80% rule could come about, and it could either be bearish or it could be bullish. If we start the period, or if we kind of leave that range, and we don't cross through that range, then what happens is, as price enters that, the range, and this is the range for the week based on last week's activity, there's an 80% chance that we can go from one side to the other. So we haven't quite done it. We almost did it yesterday, but for whatever reason, there's a little bit of resistance before that top of value, which is 5,245. So yeah, it's still kind of playing out, and also, besides the bearish or the bullish 80% rule, the support is holding really well too. If you look at where we were earlier this morning, we were right at that bottom of value area, and just like, if you go back, if you look at the gray box from last week, right? So that was the value area for last week, and that did a pretty good
yep.
job in terms of support too. So it's, for whatever reason, the upside is doing its own thing, because last week the upside went through the value area a little bit, didn't get through the previous week's highs, but it wasn't perfect. But the support is acting really well in terms of, giving us some tradable areas off of that.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean you use value area quite a bit,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure if we ever addressed this on the show, but has value area always just been like a consistent indicator for you? And like how reliable really is it compared to, say, like looking at double tops, triple tops, other kinds of levels?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely use it in conjunction and with, with other patterns like double tops, double bottoms, and or head and shoulders, or and I'll use it with moving averages too, because when we're trading above the value area, but this is volume at price. It's very similar to, I know that anchored VWAP has gotten very popular these days, but it's the same concept. When you're using anchored VWAP or VWAP, it's volume weighted average price. So it's the same exact concept. The advantage and why I like to use the value areas, and again, it's the same. It's using the market profile and making some calculations behind the scenes. But this way, you don't have to anchor anything, right? It's all exactly the levels are cut and dry. You don't have to figure out like, oh, I need to go from the month's low or the year's low, right? I mean, on the 1 hour chart,
Right.
it's based on last week's activity. If you go to the daily chart, it's based on last month's activity, all the volume and the price activity. And when we use the weekly chart, right, that value area is based on all of 2023. So it's nice because it gives some really good support and resistance levels, based on that volume at price principle. So that's number one. And number two, it just gives you a really good framework, depending on what your time frame is. Some people are scalping a lot and day trading, and the 5 minute chart, 1 hour chart is very good for that. And then of course, if you're more of a swing trader, then you wouldn't necessarily need to bother to look at the 5 minute chart, but you're probably trading a lot more off of the weekly and the daily chart.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, thanks for that great explanation.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course. Yeah,
you always tweet out about it, and you always see that, hey, this stock is near its value area high or whatnot. So that's awesome. Thanks for explaining that.
yeah,
And
no
actually,
problem. And it's a concept, and I can share my screen. We can go through a couple other
yeah,
examples
sure.
if you like. But of some things that I'm watching right now. But let me just get this right portion of screen right. But yeah, it's a concept that takes a little bit while to get used to. But once you kind of have the hang of using that and understanding how that previous like auction period kind of comes into play, you can kind of see the same thing that's playing out with the stock that everybody seems to be focused on right now, which is NVIDIA. I tend to kind of shy. Again, it all depends on the type of trader that you are. If you like scalping, then this is kind of your game. If you're more of a trend trader, which is myself, I try to just get out of. I don't spend that much time with range bound trades, even though like today was a great trade. Like I know a couple of traders in my trading room took advantage of, hey, this came in and tested the bottom of value, and then it gave a nice, like for the day, a really nice
Yeah,
range from 862 to basically to the top of value, and it stalled out there. So I think what we're seeing right now is, as you can see, I've got a trend line drawn here. So of course I use other things on my charts too, but we're in this like triangle type pattern that's consolidating. And if you are trading this, like where to basically try a trade, and where if it's going to break down, it would be breaking down below 862.
yes, exactly. And yeah, Nvidia's been quite the performer. And I mean, now that it's one of the top components, I did see that BFA poll this morning, and apparently the Mag 7 was one of the most crowded trades now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do you think that plays into how, yeah, Nvidia will perform, or will we see more rotation, do you think?
I think some of these surveys and some of the reports that you get are kind of delayed. I was reading a report last week. I think it was like a report from Goldman saying that they've been seeing like a lot of steady selling in tech, and so I think some of these things are a little bit stale. Like by the time you get the information, it's kind of what you've already been seeing for the last like 4 or 5. I think for the Magnificent Seven names, I think they kind of, for the most part, they lost their momentum like a couple weeks ago, and when Apple really started to kind of take that leg lower. So, I don't like. Some people look at those reports and they're like, aha. That's like, well, you look at the chart and you'll see the same thing like a couple weeks ago. Is that, the Apple lost momentum like all the way, about a month ago. It really started to make a lower high and so forth. And that's just one of the names too. But even like a stronger name like Meta, even though it has been stronger, but it made a high, towards the beginning of the month. And it just looks like some of these things are kind of in consolidation, or when they do have some life to them, and when they get kind of like to the top of the range, they stall out. And one name too that doesn't get that much attention, which is like Netflix too. And it looked like, oh geez, big move on Friday, and then the high of the day pre-market, or the right where it opened for the day was the high of the day. So for the most part, like these things, to me, this group of stocks has just lost its momentum. And I think it's perfectly natural and normal, to see some profit taking and to see some moves into some other areas of the market right now.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I mean, chips as a whole has has been trending, but yeah, you see a little bit of profit taking. Um, I want to make sure we touch on the rate decision tomorrow. So of course,
Sure,
for
sure.
those who don't know, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, pay attention to what Powell or what the rate decision is, and then Powell will be speaking after. I mean, as far as the Fed Watch tool, we have, a 99% chance of the
Hmm.
rate staying the same.
Right.
But are you looking for any particular language for like further rate cuts later this year? Like, what are you paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody at this point, like, has some type of a view about what they think is going to happen. And, the Fed fund futures have been pricing in rate cuts, since, even last year, going out to like 3, 6 months, those Fed fund futures have been pricing in cuts. But it hasn't really happened as, we get to one of those Fed meetings or a Fed speech, and they dial back those expectations. And we just got fresh information last week regarding inflation. So I think that they, again, everybody has an opinion. I think what I'll be listening for tomorrow during the press conference, which starts at 2:30, is whether they're going to actually hint that they may need to actually go back to the possibility of raising interest rates, because inflation's running hot. So, and, you could super analyze the components of inflation. And, I think a good portion of that is what's been going on with energy and commodities, which have been super strong right now. And if you look at some of these commodity charts, right, you can kind of see what's going on is, if you look at DBC, which is all commodities, and DBA, which is agriculture. Now a lot of this is cocoa, but right, there are a lot different looking charts than the charts that I just looked at, that we just looked at with the Magnificent Seven names that are kind of stalling out and lost their momentum. The commodity names right now don't look like that. They're making some big moves. And so there are definitely trades right now that copper was a good one last week, even though this. And by the way, speaking of volume at price, if you look at where copper has stalled out at, is right at the top of value. So, to long-winded response to answer your question is that I think that I'll be listening for if they're interested at all, or in the possibility of raising interest rates. Now, do I think that it happens? Probably not, because it's an election year, and even though we don't think that the Fed, or they're not supposed to be politically motivated, I don't think that they're going to be raising rates. And I think that they'll just leave the door open and say data dependent, for the rest of the year in terms of cutting rates. So I just think that they're going to not say much.
Yeah, and that's often what we hear too. It's just another repetition that we're going to pay attention to the data and
Right.
we'll see, sort of thing. It's never anything really new. But who knows? I mean, there could be a scenario where rate hikes are back on the table. That's at least good to be prepared for.
Right.
Um, yeah. And now going back to a couple other stocks, I believe Dell is on your radar. I mean, they popped off of earnings and now are in a little bit of a downtrend, but it seems they found a little support.
Yeah, so I
Any
mean, so what I'm doing, like where I'm focused right now, is like mainly the positions that I have on are a lot in materials and energy right now. But
okay.
I'm still watching to see what's going on, and in terms of the pullbacks that we're seeing. So I've looked at this Dell, I put it on my watch list actually today, but I just think it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and maybe the market might get freed up a little bit tomorrow after the Fed meeting. But it just seems like for now, it seems like what has the momentum be, the wind behind the sails a little bit is more of the material stocks and more of the energy stocks right now. So again, that could change a little bit, but for now, that's what we got going on. And even like, as boring as kind of this group sounds, but even like the consumer staples right now, I think you can find opportunities. I was just looking at one of them right now, which again, this is a boring, these are boring names, and they're kind of like point A to point B type trades. But that's, my indicator kind of helps with that. But this is Lamb Weston, right? And it's all bottled up here, and we've seen a lot of consumer staples kind of take off. So I would be looking for a move out of this consolidation and higher. Another name that I'm in is the CEG. This is like a power. It's a somewhat nuclear name. CCJ is a name that I haven't gotten into yet, but we've seen some call positioning in. So again, just looking at some other areas of the market, outside of tech right now, and paying attention to support. We've got Micron that also reports later this week. There
Yep.
was some call positioning in Marvell. So again, while the semi group is taking a breather, I want to see if support is going to hold here in Marvell, which is basically right around this like 60. What is it? Is it? I can't read. 63.
66
Yeah,
or oh,
63.26. We've got two levels that are like right here, so it's it's overlapping a little bit. But you can see, kind of the overall chart here, breakout and kind of retest. And we don't know if it's a double bottom yet. It'll take some time to kind of realize that, but it does look like there's some positioning going on today.
okay. Well, actually, yeah, get busting out of the tech names is a great way to at least avoid the crowded trades. And
Right.
I
And
just
and
go ahead.
this happens where, things will get crowded because they acted really well. The semis acted really well for weeks. So but it's just the normal course of action where, okay, things rip to the upside for a while. Institutions are in there, then some institutions start taking profits, and then they'll kind of, possibly look to get back involved after the after some of these things have come down 5, 10% or so. You will find institutions will start to kind of get back involved at their levels.
Yes, yes, exactly. And with these less crowded trades, is FedEx on your radar at all? They're reporting earnings Thursday after the close. Like, does that fall in under your radar?
I mean, I'll always watch, if the earnings reports, but I this one I don't really play that much. FedEx, it's kind of got a mixed background. I think the last 10 quarters, it's probably gone up about what, 6 out of the last 10, but I'll mainly be listening more to what they say about the about the economy, and that should
Yep.
help with some other transportation names.
Yeah. Yeah, that's often one that I know Joel and Dennis pay attention to for, yeah, almost an indicator of, okay, how much activity is really going on in the economy. Uh, do you have uh, do you have to go before the close here, or do you
Yeah,
have
I'm gonna
time?
if that's cool with
Okay,
you.
that's good.
Okay, cool. Thanks so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate your time, and good luck tomorrow.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your time. All right. That was Christian from Hertz. Thank you for tuning in to that. I will be taking us into the close here. There will be a few earnings to cover coming after the close. Let's see what's coming up. ZTO Express, a little bit back with the Chinese names here. There's not these aren't really big earnings. Actually, I better share my screen. Joel has had so much practice doing that, and now I come in. Here we go. ZTO, at least expecting earnings tomorrow. Uh, I'm a big 200-day moving average, so that's at least a level right around $23 to pay attention to. If it can first clear yesterday's high around 22.39, if not, There's a lot of a lot of uh supporting levels here right at about 2130. We have one, two, almost three lows, and then we have a bunch of highs from earlier in the year, all going right into the low 2130s there. So if it starts to break that, then we have a little bit of room down to 2066 and then right down to $20. So there's at least a few levels to pay attention to. NZTO, another one reporting earnings after the close today. HQY, Health Equity. This at least coming up on a lot of highs for the past month. And if we can start to clear 84, then we'll be looking at the monthlies all the way up to just above $90. There's quite a bit of room as we clear 84, but on the downside, then a lot of lows conflating right around that $80 level. Uh, so fairly clear levels there. That's health equity. That's earnings coming up after the close today. For earnings tomorrow morning, we have PDD Holdings. Ticker is nice and easy to remember on that one, just PDD. Let's see if I can get it to load. Yes, there we go. We're not going to get the monthly chart there, but at least we have yesterday's high, and that is actually a double top right around 130.80. And then we have room up until about 139. And then on the downside here, we have right around 120, just below 120 at 119.63. So at least that low, and that's near the high seen earlier last week. We start to break down below that, I'd be looking basically right down to the 200-day moving average, right around 108, which also coincides with this low of 108.87 there. And of course, yes, Micron. Micron is coming up Wednesday after the close, their earnings. And now if you're into the crowded trades and into the chip stocks, then this is at least one that you'll want to pay attention to. They're not quite involved to the level that NVIDIA or AMD is, but Micron does make a lot of chips, a lot of memory chips, at least that I know of. Anyway, so as far as levels so far, I mean, we have a double top, almost triple top, right at 97.50, and that also coincides with these lows seen earlier in the month. So 97.50 going to be a big level here in Micron. And if you can get above that, back to the all-time highs here, the all-time high is 101.85, at least on my side here. And I mean, again, once a stock clears all-time highs, then I mean, there's not a lot of resistance to be had. But first, 97.50 is the level I'd be looking for. But if it starts going the other way, we have, I mean, we'll have to see what today's low ends up being and tomorrow's low, at least intraday. But beyond that, we have a triple bottom right around 88.82. At least that's the latest one. So 88.80 to 88.90 looks to be on the downside. Then we have a small gap to 86.80. All these levels are ending in 80, and there's a couple of more gaps on the daily chart that stick out. So there's a few, maybe a couple levels to lean on. We'll see what Micron ends up doing tomorrow. We have time for one more stock before the close. Let's go with some of the boring ones, as we were just talking about with Christian. General Mills. Come on. Yes, I'm in the remote office, so the Wi-Fi may not be quite as fast, but here we go. General Mills. Yes, we just cleared the 200-day moving average here, and that at least was a level to lean on for today's action. And then we have to go all the way to the monthlies, or if I can at least scroll back here. Uh, okay, next level on the upside for General Mills would be right around $69. There's about a triple top, almost a quad top right around $69 there for General Mills. And again, they're reporting earnings tomorrow morning. Then on the downside, what do we have in store here? I mean, I would look towards yesterday's low, as former resistance can sometimes be turned into support, and that at least was former resistance level right around a 66.60. So there's a level on the downside, and there's the close. S&Ps finished, we finished strong here. Actually finished up more than 0.5% on the day, currently at 52.42. There's your closing print. I hope I was able to fill in for Joel here, and of course he will be back with Dennis on Thursday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And if you're curious, Christian Fromhertz also has a webinar tomorrow that he's doing. I would check his Twitter for that. I think it might be for his traders, but I would check his Twitter at Christian Fromhertz. Anyways, that's the closing print for this Tuesday, March 19th. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all soon.